we've got one more for you. So, okay, oh, really? Okay, we're gonna try. Oh, that was a bad aim. Okay, let's see. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, and our last one. All right. Our last slammer is Jagoda Borkiewicz, and she's ready to share an amazing project she works on with her students. She's a teacher for the Chicago Public Schools. She's been teaching in the district for the last 5 years and is currently a EL bilingual teacher and Polish language teacher. Additionally, she has worked as an educator in China, Spain, and Australia. She draws upon these experiences abroad as a source for her inspiration in the classroom to teach and to create an environment in the classroom. Jagoda has participated in the Teacher Institute at the MCA, which ultimately influenced her decision to pursue a master's degree in art education. She was born in Poland, moved to Chicago in the 1st grade, and she has swam with her favorite animal, the whale shark. So welcome to the stage, our final slammer. It'll be worth sticking around for.
It's hard to imagine a Chicago without its bold architecture, buzzing streets filled with commuters and shoppers, and an iconic skyline. In its mere 185 years of existence as a city, Chicago transformed tremendously. One hot summer day, as I walked along Michigan Avenue, I stopped by the Chicago River where a plaque caught my eye. Fort Dearborn once stood at the very intersection I was standing on. In a Chicago Tribune flashback article titled Chicago's Trail of Tears, I learned that on a similarly hot day in August of 1835, 800 Potawatomi warriors gathered at Fort Dearborn after mourning their eviction from their hunting grounds near Lake Michigan. These warriors were part of a group of 5,000 tribe members present to complete formalities of the Treaty of Chicago. In spite of their heartache and devastation, they danced as they were escorted out by the army, never to return to their land again. That image lingered with me as I headed into the school year. In the midst of our unit on Native Americans, one of my 3rd graders asked me, "When did all the Potawatomi die?" My students thought that Native people were an ancient civilization. I realized the urgency I needed to teach with and the amount of background knowledge that my students needed to have to understand that these were a displaced people, not a dead people. I began teaching my students about Columbus and his invasion of the Taínos. I created a slideshow of images and facts that depicted a fuller picture from multiple perspectives and presented it to my students. We looked at maps that showed the Native people's shrinking territories, interpreted parts of the Indian Removal Act, studied timelines of important events since 1492, and read various texts to help form an understanding of America's history. Students started making connections to topics I had no idea they knew about. One of my students, Eric, pointed out that near his home, the people living in Tent City were relocated too. The city of Chicago ordered the homeless to clear out their encampment in preparation for new construction, discarding anything left unclaimed. Another student, Deanna, said that Eric's comment reminded her of The Lorax by Dr. Seuss, where the Onceler, driven by greed, destroyed a community, forcing all inhabitants out. Through this kind of dialogue, students made connections between history, literature, and their own personal narratives. They began connecting their own struggles as immigrants to the struggles that people of color faced since Columbus's arrival. We decided that we needed to be the voice for the voiceless and the voice for justice. The students urgently wanted to let others know that they didn't feel it was right to observe Columbus Day. They designed t-shirts with powerful slogans, and on the day before the holiday, wore them to a pep rally in silent protest. Buzzing with energy and pride, we agreed there was more we had to do. We needed to make others not just aware, but involved. Students started a petition and wrote letters to our principals and mayor asking to rename Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples Day. Our drive to keep going was stronger than ever. The third graders broke out into student-led groups which they picked based on their interests and talents. They wrote and performed a skit, created abstract art, and even began learning Algonquin. Students wanted to keep expressing themselves and spreading their message in creative ways. That's when contemporary art came in. We took a field trip to the Museum of Contemporary Art, where we were drawn to Amanda Williams' exhibition. One of the pieces that immediately grabbed our attention was titled, "It's a Gold Mine / Is the Gold Mine?" The salvaged Chicago bricks, covered in gold leaf, looked like valuable bricks of gold. Students were surprised to learn that they were bricks from torn down buildings. They wondered why they were covered in gold and had a hard time deciding if they had more value because they were golden. I told students about Amanda Williams' work and how she drew attention to houses that were slated for demolition by painting them bright colors. Why was she doing this? If these homes are considered useless and are to be torn down, why do people collect the bricks afterwards to sell them? Are they valuable after all? Who gets to decide what is valuable or when it stops being valuable? We pondered on what message Amanda Williams may have been sending the community. This opened a deep dialogue on values. What is more important, money or respect for living things? Inspired by Amanda Williams' work and by Eric's earlier comment about Tent City, we went on a community walk to find what people valued by observing what was present in our neighborhood. Did the signs around our school show what people valued? Did the buildings and stores? Did nature reflect our values back to us? We noticed that some buildings surrounding our school were being torn down. We interviewed a construction worker who told us that there would be a high-rise where there once stood a food pantry and a section of low-income housing. Looking at the past and how it was still alive today, we set our eyes on the gentrification happening right across the street from our school. Since colonialism, people of color have been forced out of their communities. This displacement and whitewashing remains an ongoing issue. I bought each of my students disposable cameras and asked them to take photos of things that they value that don't cost any money. They took photos of bees, smiles, thumb wars, good manners, rain, darkness, cool dance moves. We developed these photos and tried to find a theme in every one of them. What did our class value based on the images? We questioned some of the photos and made claims about whether they showed values that were truly free. Would our values be different if money was never introduced? In an attempt to add value to currency, we cut out the images and glued them onto play money, which we attached to ropes, forming a curtain of values currently displayed at a local coffee shop. People interact with the piece and reflect on the meaning of value by contributing images of their own. As we receive photos, students continue to add them to the piece. The installation brings attention to our societal values, past and current. A lot has changed in Chicago since the Trail of Tears. However, the displacement of people of color has been a constant. My students, who now call themselves artists and activists, were able to make this connection on their own. Imagine what they will be capable of doing when allowed to explore history rooted in local people. Imagine what they can do when they are given opportunities to have their voices heard. Thank you very much.